Hey, welcome to this terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming to you live as we do every day, Monday to Friday, high noon Eastern. And this week we are high atop Midtown Manhattan at the Newsmax headquarters studio right here in New York City. As always, our studio is fortified with Question Tequila to get our guests good and primed up and ready to speak the truth to you. And as we do every day, we start the top of the show with a little update for midday, what's going on in the markets. And in the markets today, down at the NYSE, we're pretty level, holding that 27,000 range. The market at 27,350 as we speak. I think it's on its way to 28. A little consolidation here in the 27s will be good news for 28 and beyond. Stay nimble, stay alert on the markets because any bad news, there's some room for it to drop here. So stay alert. And Bitcoin down a bit today, got knocked down from 13 to just under 10, rebounded well off that support line at 10,000, trading at 10,800 today. And I just left the Rainbow Room, high atop Rockefeller Center, for the big launch of the ABBC Foundation's newest coin, the TNC coin. And ABC, as you know, the ABBC Foundation has the Aladdin platform where you can go search any e-commerce items in the whole world on Amazon and eBay and Alibaba and all this stuff. You only have to put your credit card in once. And they gave me, as a special advisor to the company, they gave me a beautiful gift. It's an Aladdin lantern. So when we need some good luck, I'm going to start rubbing this lantern. But until I use the genie in the bottle, let's go to the man who joins me every day, the genie in the studio.
The man who makes even more wishes come true than Aladdin. That's right.
Frank Morano.
Well, thank you, John. It's good to see you, and congratulations on the new lamp. There is a ton of stuff going on in the news. There's new asylum rules, the raids that nobody except John's mother thought took place. Apparently, we found at least one other person that thinks they took place. That's President Trump. So apparently, maybe I might be in for a correction of my own. But there is breaking news within the last 2 hours coming right out of New York City, but it has national implications, and that is the subject of today's Frankly Speaking. The thing that I want you to keep in mind today is either the rule of law means something, either the rules, period, mean something, or they don't. We live in a civil society where we elect people to make laws who then hire people to administer those laws. If we're going to disregard all of the societal laws and the societal norms that have done a pretty good job getting Western civilization to this point, and disregard all of that just for the mob that screams the loudest and that has the most hyperbolic rhetoric, we will have a mobocracy. We won't have a democracy, we will have a mobocracy. Well, if you look at the news today coming out of New York City, that is precisely what Al Sharpton and some others would like to have happen. Now, 5 years ago tomorrow, unfortunately, Eric Garner, a fellow Staten Islander, a man who was a beloved son and a beloved father, died. He died in the midst of an incident with police. Now, there was a grand jury investigated. There was a grand jury impaneled to determine if there was any criminal culpability for the officer involved here, Daniel Pantaleo. That grand jury, they determined that there was no criminal culpability for Officer Daniel Pantaleo. But that wasn't enough for some. Al Sharpton and members of the Garner family, and again, my heart goes out to them. I can't imagine what it must be like to lose a son or a father. But Al Sharpton and others decided to take this case to the feds. And 2 hours ago, on the eve of what would have been the last day to bring charges, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District came out and said there will be no federal charges. No state charges, no federal charges. However, Al Sharpton and others were out there today saying that we still have to fire this officer. Now, maybe we should wait and see what the Civilian Complaint Review Board judge says. Maybe we should wait and see what the police commissioner says. Well, not a lot of people know what it's like to be police commissioner. In just a minute, you're going to hear from someone who does. But until then, my advice is we have a system of laws. Let's follow them.
Hey, Frankie, I couldn't agree with you more. The Frankly Speaking is always an in-depth look at the major topics of the day. And the truth of the matter is we have legislators here in the state of New York who are using taxpayer time and money to amend other laws, like the misdemeanor law in New York State, which just changed to 364 days. And maybe we should focus a little more of our time of respecting the laws we do have on the books. And like Frankie said, God bless the families and anyone that unfortunately passes in an unfortunate incident. But it looks like Officer Pantaleo has been tried and tried again. And now the New York City PD has their Civilian Complaint Review Board that's going to look at it. But at some point, and we talked about double jeopardy. They already went after this guy 2 times, and 2 different judicial bodies have found no crime was committed. So, you know, at some point, Al Sharpton is a publicity-seeking monger. And it's the laws of this very United States and the constitutional freedoms that allow him to go out there and protest for these things. But enough is enough.
In some ways, John, it reminds me a little bit of the Mueller probe. We heard from all these Trump critics that say, don't fire Mueller, St. Bob III. We have to do whatever Mueller says, whatever he says is gold. And then all of a sudden, Mueller doesn't come out and indict President Trump or a member of the Trump family. And because these critics didn't get the result that they wanted, they're ready to say, oh, well, what does Mueller know? What if that grand jury, impaneled by Staten Island DA Dan Donovan, had delivered an indictment? Would the process have?
Yes, they would all be happy.
Yeah. So either the process works or it doesn't.
Hey, you know, my dad was a member of the NYPD. I'm a proud family member, and when you want to talk about the NYPD and things that go on here and in other places, there's nobody better to bring on than former NYPD Commissioner Bernard Kerik, who joins us now by Skype. And Commissioner, how are you? Welcome to Liquid Lunch.
I'm good.
So, Commish, I'm sure you heard, you know, we're talking about this Pantaleo breaking news, no federal charges, and now there's going to be a CCRB. Enough is enough with this, is my point of view. What do you think?
Listen, you know, they've investigated this at the state level through the district attorney. The feds have looked at it. You know, I think enough is enough. I'm disappointed with the mayor's statement, the statement he made. You know, these liberals and people like Mayor de Blasio, they want justice the way they want justice. They want, you know, they want to determine what justice is, when in fact, there were several investigations conducted. There are no charges as a result of those investigations, no violations of criminal law. That's justice. That's the world we live in. That's justice by the U.S. Constitution, and they should live with it. We're not in Cuba. We're not in Venezuela. We're not in China or Iran. You can't dictate what that justice is going to be. Let it go through the course. The course is done. Now let's move on.
Commissioner, we were eager to talk with you today for a number of reasons, not only because you know what it's like to sit in the chair of the police commissioner who will ultimately determine whether or not Officer Pantaleo has been fired, but because you have been so critical from time to time of prosecutorial overreach and prosecutorial misconduct. You were very vocal about that just recently in the Eddie Gallagher trial out in California. Can you explain exactly what the Mayor de Blasio, a Democratic candidate for president, and yes, unfortunately, I had to say that with a straight face. Can you explain what his new policy is going to be with respect to departmental investigations after criminal investigations or while they go on? I don't even understand it. Can you explain what it is?
Well, I don't understand what he's trying to say either. The reality is there is an additional investigation that Pantaleo will have to go through, and that's the city police departments. You know, they did an internal affairs investigation, and they will make a recommendation to the police commissioner whether there were any policies violated. This isn't about criminal conduct. The criminal conduct piece has been dealt with. That's done through the DA. Sometimes it may be done by a special prosecutor. The feds may come in and look at this like they have. but the police department also does an internal investigation and makes a recommendation to the police commissioner. Now, normally, under normal circumstances, that's the police commissioner's decision whether he abides by that investigation, whether he agrees with it, whether he approves their recommendations or not. And the mayor should not, absolutely should not be involved in that process because the mayor doesn't know the evidence. The mayor doesn't see what the police commissioner and the internal affairs people have gotten to see. So whatever, I don't know what he's talking about, what the city is intending to do. The mayor does not belong in that process, period.
Commissioner, it's John. Does the mayor belong still being the mayor, quite honestly? Because people are saying he's never here. We had a blackout. Broadway went dark, and the mayor was nowhere to be found. He didn't get back to New York till 13 hours later. Is he kind of missing in action as mayor here?
Yeah, listen, I said this the other day. He is by far the worst mayor in the history of the city. He is completely diminishing every positive thing that Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg brought into New York City over the 20 years before him. And, you know, all you have to do, you know, I walked up Wall Street a couple weeks ago, early in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning, going from the East Side Drive up to Broadway. And I have to tell you, I saw 20, 25 homeless people on Wall Street, right around the stock exchange, right around major financial institutions in New York City. It is by far the worst I've seen. And I would take it back to, you know, David Dinkins' days. I think this guy's going to turn New York City into something worse than what it was then.
Well, and let's hope he doesn't succeed in doing so. Commissioner, in the final 20 seconds that we have, now it's going to be up to Commissioner O'Neill, one of your successors, to determine whether Officer Pantaleo was fired. Based on the video and the evidence that you've seen, was this a prohibited chokehold, and would you fire him if you were sitting in that chair?
I would not fire him. I would not fire him. I'd send him for retraining. Perhaps, I'm sure there's other things they've seen that I have not. However, based on the investigation conducted by the city, by the state, and by the feds, I don't see how they're going to terminate him. But that's not my decision. That's O'Neill's.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for being there every day for us. And you stay right there. We're going to mix it up in a bipartisan way with Rob Taub and Bill Cortez. I'm going to have a drink, sit back, and let them brawl. Stay tuned for Liquid Lunch.